dust blew across Red Mesa as Arthur Kane pushed open the swinging saloon doors, boots heavy with worry. The ranch his father built, the only home he'd ever known, was hanging by a thread. One more loss to Cutter Hale, the town's slick-tongued gambler, and the deed would change hands forever. Arthur scanned the card tables, jaw clenched. He had never been a master with cards, but Cutter always insisted on poker as the way to settle debts. And Cutter never played fair. Then he saw her, a woman with sharp green eyes, auburn hair tied low, and a calm confidence that cut through the haze of smoke. She sat alone, dealing herself cards like she was practicing spells. Heidi Rowan. Arthur had heard whispers about her. A traveling card player with unmatched instincts. Someone who could read a bluff before the liar even twitched. He didn't believe gossiping till she looked up at him like she already knew why he'd come. "You're Arthur Kane," she said, voice low and sure. "And you're about to lose a ranch." He blinked. "How in the world?" "I pay attention," she said. "And Cutter Hale. He doesn't win because he's good. He wins because you don't know what to look for." She motioned to the seat across from her. "Sit, learn, or walk out and say goodbye to your land." Arthur hesitated, but something in her voice steadied him. He slid into the chair. For the next hour, Heidi taught him more about cards, cheating signals, and human tells than he'd learned in his entire life. She moved like she'd been born for the table, graceful yet razor. Arthur could barely keep up, both with the lesson and the surprising pull he felt toward her. Finally, she stood. "I'm helping you tonight," she said. "Not because of money, because Cutter Hale needs to lose." Arthur swallowed, heart thudding. "Why, help me?" Her eyes softened, just barely. "Because you're the only rancher in this territory who hasn't sold his soul. And because I don't like bullies." As they walked toward the main poker table, Arthur realized he wasn't just entering a game. He was stepping into danger with a woman who might break the rules. And his heart, the saloon buzzed with tension as Arthur and Heidi approached the largest table. Cutter Hale leaned back in his chair, flashing his trademark smile, the kind of grin that promised trouble. "Well, look who's crawled back," Cutter drawled. "Ready to lose what's left of your pride." Arthur didn't flinch. "Tonight's different." Cutter's eyes slid to Heidi. "Bringing a lady to watch you fall. How sweet." Heidi stepped forward, gaze sharp as a Bowie knife. "I'm not here to watch, I'm here to make sure you play clean." The saloon burst with murmurs. Cutter held up his hands. "Why, I always play clean." Heidi smirked. "Then you won't mind if I sit nearby." Arthur took his seat, while Heidi positioned herself behind him, leaning just close enough for her whisper to reach his ear. "Watch his left hand. That's where he signals." The game began. Cards slapped the table. Coins clinked. Cutter played like a man with all the answers, every gesture smooth, every bet confident. But Heidi saw what others didn't. A tap of the finger, a flick of the wrist, a subtle crease on a corner. "Don't call yet," she whispered. "He's baiting you." Arthur listened. And for the first time in months, he felt the tide turning. But Cutter wasn't easily unsettled. His smile faded. His eyes narrowed at Heidi. "You've got a lot of nerve," he said. "More than you," she replied. Arthur fought to hide a grin. Heidi's presence grounded him, steady, warm, powerful. With her guidance, he won hand after hand. Cutter's jaw tightened as his stack dwindled. Finally, Cutter slammed his cards down. One last hand. Winner takes all. Arthur's pulse raced. This was it. Everything his ranch, his future rested on the next few minutes. Heidi leaned in. "Trust your gut, and trust me." The final hand played out like a slow duel. Cutter bluffed hard, pushing his remaining chips forward. Arthur hesitated, until Heidi lightly touched his shoulder. He called the bet. Cutter revealed a pair of jacks. Strong, but not strong enough. Arthur laid down a straight. The saloon erupted. Cutter stood, face white with fury. Arthur felt air rush back into his lungs. Relief, triumph, disbelief. Heidi met his gaze, her eyes glowing with pride. But Arthur sensed something deeper, starting to rise between them. A connection neither of them planned. A partnership that felt like destiny. A spark heating into something the whole saloon could feel. The victory didn't sit well with Cutter Hale. Not one bit. The next morning, Arthur and Heidi rode toward his ranch deed secured, future bright, spirits high. But Heidi kept glancing over her shoulder, instincts prickling like cactus needles. Cutter's got men everywhere, she warned. He's not the type to accept a loss. Arthur tried to brush it off, but worry tugged at him. He won farewell. Finally, fair. Fair isn't in Cutter's vocabulary. The sun stretched long shadows across the trail as they reached a narrow pass between tall red cliffs. Arthur slowed his horse. This place always gives me the creeps. Heidi scanned the cliffs. It should. A sudden echo cracked through the canyon. Gunfire. Ambush, Heidi shouted. Arthur's horse reared as bullets ricocheted off stone. Dust exploded around them. 3 riders thundered toward them. Cutter's hired guns. Arthur grabbed his rifle, but Heidi was faster. She dismounted, dove behind a boulder, and fired with deadly accuracy. Arthur stared. Where'd you learn to shoot like that? Cards aren't my only skill. He joined her behind cover. The gunmen closed in, shouting for Arthur to hand over the deed. Heidi reloaded. They don't want the ranch. They want revenge. Arthur's heart pounded not from fear of bullets, but fear of losing her. We need to get out of here, he said. Then, follow me. Heidi led him up a hidden ridge trail she'd spotted. They scrambled over rocks as gunmen chased them. Just before one rider reached them, Heidi grabbed Arthur's hand and yanked him to safety behind a ledge. You okay? She asked, breathless. Arthur nodded, though his heart hammered for an entirely different reason. Her grip, her courage, her fire of it, lit something inside him he hadn't expected. The gunman retreated, temporarily, barking orders, regrouping below. Arthur turned to her. Why help me this much? You barely know me. Heidi's expression softened, shadows playing across her face. Because you're worth helping. Before Arthur could speak, she shifted closer. Not a kiss, not yet, but the space between them felt charged, magnetic, a promise waiting to unfold. Below them, Cutter's men circled back. The danger wasn't over. Neither was whatever was happening between them. Night fell by the time Arthur and Heidi reached the safety of his ranch. Lanterns flickered across the yard, casting warm glows on the fences and barn. The air smelled of hay, pine, and relief. Arthur helped Heidi dismount. You saved my life, she shrugged, though her cheeks warmed. You saved your ranch. I just made sure you lived long enough to enjoy it. They walked toward the house. Arthur kept glancing at Hertha, way she moved with quiet confidence, the way she scanned the shadows out of habit, the way she seemed both soft and strong at once. Inside, Heidi cleaned a small scrape on Arthur's arm. Her fingers were careful, gentle. You grew up here, she asked. Yeah, my father taught me everything, riding, surviving. He paused, and losing at cards. She laughed softly. Well, you're a little better now. A little, he teased. She nudged his shoulder. Don't push it, cowboy. Their eyes met, and for the first time, neither looked away. Heidi's voice lowered. I'm not used to staying in one place. Or she hesitated, letting people close. Arthur stepped nearer. You don't have to stay, and you don't have to let me in. He reached for her hand. But I hope you do. Heidi's breath caught. She had traveled from saloon to saloon, living by her wits, trusting no one. But something about Arthur Kane, steady, loyal, stubborn as a mule, made her want to stop running. Before she could answer, a loud crash echoed outside. They rushed to the porch. Cutter Hale stood at the gate, flanked by 6 armed men. Thought you could humiliate me, he snarled. That ranch belongs to me, and I'll take it one way or another. Arthur stiffened. Heidi stepped in front of him. No one's taking this ranch, she said. Cutter sneered. You're a card shark, Heidi. Nothing more. She smirked. Funny thing about sharks, they bite back. Arthur squeezed her hand. We'll face him together. Heidi looked at him. Something fierce and tender burning in her eyes. Together, maybe she was ready to stay. But first, they had to survive the night. Before dawn, Cutter surrounded the ranch. Tension snapped through the air like a pulled bowstring. Arthur and Heidi planned fast. "We can't outshoot them," Arthur said. "Not with 6 men." "No," Heidi agreed. "But we can outsmart them." She pulled out a small pouch cards she always kept with her. "Cutter hates losing. He'd risk anything to change the story. You want to challenge him again? I want to finish this." They stepped onto the porch as Cutter strode forward. Heidi held up a single card, a queen of hearts. "One last game, you and me walk." Arthur hands over the ranch. "You get everything." Arthur stiffened. "Heidi," she squeezed his hand. "Trust me." Cutter laughed. "And if I lose, you leave this ranch and this territory forever." The men murmured. Cutter considered, then smirked. "Deal." A table was set outside. Dawn painted the sky gold as Heidi and Cutter took their seats. Arthur stood behind her just as she had once stood behind him. The cards flew. Cutter was confident, arrogant, all swagger and smirks. But Heidi was calm as a morning lake. Every move calculated. Every breath steady. The final hand came. Cutter pushed everything forward, eyes gleaming with victory. "Call it." Heidi looked at her cards. Then at Arthur, and she smiled. "I call." Cutter slammed down his hand 3 queens. The men celebrated until Heidi placed her cards on the table. A straight flush. Silence crashed over the yard. Cutter stared, face draining of color. "Impossible. You cheated." Heidi stood slowly. "I won the same way you always tried to accept. I did it honestly." Arthur stepped forward, rifle in hand. "Your deal's done. Leave." Cutter's men barely needed convincing. They pulled him away as he shouted curses into the dust. When the last rider disappeared, Arthur turned to Heidi. "You risked everything," he said softly. She shrugged. "I've risked more for less." He took her hands. "Stay. Not because you owe me. Not because of the ranch. Stay, because I want you here." Heidi stepped closer, eyes softening. I want to stay too." Their lips met slow, certain, warm as sunrise over the mesa. A new beginning, a new partnership. High stakes but worth every gamble. And from that day on, the Saloon Card Shark found her home. Not at the tables, but in Arthur Kane's arms. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more Western stories.